right, so the moment I'm sure most of y'all were waiting for, Engagement Studio. Pardot released Engagement Studio a bit over a year now and it ended up replacing drip programs. Engagement Studio is awesome, to say the least. So let's go ahead and jump over there. If we go to Marketing and Engagement Studio, we'll be able to add in our engagement programs of choice. As of right now, there are no templates for engagement programs. I am going to link to a couple of resources in this module training with what type of engagement programs we can make. So let's go ahead and add engagement program. Like everything else, I'm just going to call this demo. Unlike drip programs, we do not have to add recipient lists right now. So if we're just building and we don't want to add lists, go ahead and leave this blank. This is the same for your suppression lists. We do have the ability to only send emails during business hours, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. If you would like to send emails outside of these hours, you can go ahead and leave this unchecked. I am going to keep it checked for now. And you can also select the time zone that you want to base this email send off of. A good rule of thumb is you can base it off the central time zone. So if you have prospects on the West Coast or Central Coast or East Coast, use the central time zone because it's closer for both. So let's find our central, which is Chicago. Okay, here we go. So America, Chicago, that's our central. Go ahead and hit save. All right, so this is how we build out our program. If you ever want to change the name, there's two things that we can do. One, we can either hit the start button and then we can change the name, add in our list and our suppression list, or we can go up to the little edit icon right here and change the name. We could put demo 1 and then click out of it and it changed the name for us. So every program is going to look the same when we first start. You have your start and you have your end. Now we need to add the actions in between. So let's go ahead and hit this plus sign. As you can see, we have 3 different cards that we can start from. Most of the time we will start from an action card. So let's go over these cards real quick though before we start to get into building. We have our action cards. Basically, action cards are, what do you want Pardot to do, or what do you want this engagement studio to do? Do you want it to send an email? Do you want to add them to a list? Do you want to change their prospect field? Do you want to notify a user? So these are all of our actions. We also have our triggers. This means we're going to listen for something that happens while they're inside the engagement studio. We can listen to see if they opened an email or if they downloaded a specific file. Maybe they filled out a landing page. So a note about our triggers. Triggers are only listening while the prospect's inside the engagement studio. So let's just say, for instance, prospect hasn't yet started this engagement studio, but they went ahead and filled out this landing page. So if they come into the engagement studio, it's not going to know that it filled out this landing page beforehand. It's only going to know, did they fill out this landing page during their time in this engagement studio? So that's one thing that you want to keep in mind when you're building out your first program. And then we also have our rules. So our rule card is going to check for something on the prospect profile. So for instance, it's going to say, do they have an assigned user? Or what is their grade? Maybe we want to check to see if a prospect's grade is a B before we send them down a particular path. So everything we have for our rule is going to check on the prospect itself. So let's start out building an engagement program. I'm going to use a trade show for an example when we build this out. I have a trade show that's coming up and I want to target people I want to target some of my prospects who have gone to this trade show in the past. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to send them an email. So let's go ahead and type an email. So let's send email. And so if we remember back when we were building out our templates, we can build out templates just for Engagement Studio. And I actually use a particular naming convention for how I build out my emails. So I'm going to look at my I'm going to look at my email templates. And you can see that I did do a naming convention where I have ES, which means Engagement Studio, the name of the Engagement Studio. So this could be, let's just say Dreamforce Trade Show. And then I have O1, meaning that's the first email in the series, and there's going to be 3 emails overall. So I'm going to go ahead and select this first email, And then we do have the ability here to preview what this email looks like, which is kind of nice, just to make sure, is this the right one that I'm looking for? So I can see it here, it looks good. I can also click into it and I can see the email here as well. So this is the email that I want. I'm gonna go ahead and exit out of there. And then we have the choice, when somebody starts this program, do we want to send the email immediately, or do we want to wait for a specific amount of time before the email goes out? For this first email, as soon as people get into this program, I want to send them this first email. So I'm going to hit save. Awesome. So we just created our first action, and that's to send an email. Now, what are we going to do following this email? So what I might want to do is I want to see if my prospects did not open this email, I want to resend the people who did not open the email, the secondary one, just to make sure they got it. So I'm going to go ahead and hit this plus button, and then I'm going to listen for something. So I'm going to use a trigger card. So what I'm going to listen to is an email open. Did my prospects open this email? So let's select it. We're going to select the email. And then we're going to evaluate this. How long do we want to wait before we check to see if somebody opened the email? We have two different options. We have wait up to a maximum of X amount of days. So what does that mean? It means if people do open the email, they'll go ahead and go down the other path, or it can wait up to a maximum of, let's say, 5 days, and people who don't open the email within 5 days are going to go down to the no path. So let's just go ahead and put 5 days for now, and let's hit save. So we can see here, we're going to send this email out. If people do open up the email right away, they're going to go all the way down to the yes path. But if they don't open up the email, basically in 5 days, because we have it wait up to a maximum of 5 days, after 5 days, it's going to push anyone who didn't open the email down to the no path. So with it setting up this way, people can go on 2 different paths. And it also means the timing changes as well, because we're waiting up to 5 days. So the people who hit yes and they do open it, they'll go down this path faster than people who don't open it. So I'm actually going to change this. I'm going to put, I want to wait 5 days in general before I move them down the yes path or no path. So everyone's going to sit here for 5 days before we move forward. So I'm going to hit OK. So after 5 days, if people did not open the email, I want to send them a follow-up. So that's where I'm going to put my action, and then we're also going to send email. And I want to send my second email. So these are people who did not open the first one, so they're going to get a second one. And I'm going to send it immediately because they've already waited 5 days. And so after 5 days, they'll go down this path and they'll get the second email. And I'm going to hit save. And so what about the people who did open the email? Well, let's just say in my email, I linked to a landing page. And for people who opened the email, maybe I want to see, did they fill out the landing page? So I'm going to go ahead and hit this plus button. And again, I'm going to trigger, I'm going to listen for something. Did they fill out a landing page? So I'm going to hit trigger. And I'm going to scroll down, and here's my landing page. And I want a specific landing page for this trade show, not just any landing page. Did they fill out my trade show reserve your space landing page? So I'm going to go ahead and put my free template and was completed. And we also have the same option here. We can wait up to a certain amount of time, or we can have everyone wait at the same step. I'm actually not going to put a wait step because we have one right up here. Let's wait 5 days. So I'm going to hit save. So let's check out what we've done. I've sent my first email. I'm waiting up to 5 days. If they didn't open the email, I'm going to resend them a second email. But if they did open the email, I want to check to see if they went ahead and filled out the landing page. If they did fill out the landing page, we can add some actions. If they didn't fill out the landing page, we can add some other options. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down this no path first. All right, these people didn't fill out the landing page. I want to send them this same email that we have here, the ES02, because I'm trying to drive these prospects to fill out the landing page and reserve their spot at the trade show. So let's go ahead and put an action. Let's go to send the email. Let's find that 02. And so I put immediate. So the reason why I put immediate for the send is because everyone waited 5 days here. So after 5 days, we're going to check, did they fill out the landing page? Nope. Let's go ahead and send the email. So what about these people here who did fill out the landing page? They raised their hand. They said, hey, I want to go to the trade show. I'll meet you guys there. Let's reserve my spot. So a couple of things we can do. Let's go ahead and look at our options. We could just end the engagement studio right away. They did what we wanted them to do. Let's go ahead and end it. Personally, I don't want to end the drip program just yet, so I'm going to go ahead and delete the step. And I want to add, so it's asking, are you sure you want to delete this? Where do you want people to go if we delete the step? Well, I want them to go down to this end step, so I'm going to say delete. And so we can see it goes back to our original form. So what do I want to do if people fill out this landing page? 1, I want to alert their assigned user. So I'm going to go and find, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to notify user, and I'm going to select their assigned user just to let them know, hey, this person signed up, they will attend a trade show, and I'm going to immediately notify their assigned user. The next thing I want to do is I want to actually add them to a Salesforce campaign that I've set up. So let's go ahead and hit action, add to Salesforce campaign, and then let's go ahead and look at what kind of campaigns we have available. So here's my trade show. We have the International Electrical Engineers Association trade show. So I'm going to put this as my trade show, and I'm going to put a status of responded because they said they were going to go to this trade show. And I'm going to immediately add the status of responded, and I'm going to hit save. And then the next thing that I want to do for these people is maybe in a few days, I want to go ahead and send them one last email, just reminding them that the trade show is coming up. So let's just go email, let's send email, and I'm going to wait because I don't want them to immediately get this email. If I count out on my calendar that the trade show is 30 days away, and then we look up and we could say, okay, right now we have 5 days. So if we time everything out in our calendar, we'll see that they got the first email, they waited 5 days, so technically we have 25 days before our trade show happens. So maybe I want to send them a reminder email 15 days later. So let's go ahead and select our last template, that's the 03, and I'm going to hit save. So again, what we're going to do, if we scroll back up, we send our email. Did they open the email? Did they fill out the landing page? Notify their assigned user, add them to a Salesforce campaign, and then in 15 days, let's send a reminder email. So what about the people over on our left-hand side? We don't want to forget about them. What do we want to do here? Well, most of the time, I want to copy what I did here. So I'm going to go and check. After I sent this email, did they open it? And let's wait 5 days. If they did open it, did they fill out, if they did open it, did they fill out the landing page? If they did fill out the landing page, let's go ahead and add the same actions here. We're going to notify user. We're going to add them to a Salesforce campaign, and I'm just going to hit save. And then we want to send them an email. Now let's just count a little bit because we're not going to use the same 15 days because they're on a different time path. So let's look up. We sent the very first email and we waited 5 days. After 5 days, we sent a second email and we waited 10 days. And then we're checking again, did they fill out the landing page? So we don't want to send that reminder email in 15 days because then it's already going to be passed. So we might want to do 10 days instead. So we're going to go ahead and grab email. And let's grab our third email and we're going to wait 10 days before it gets sent. So let's go ahead and zoom out a little bit and we can see our engagement studio. So we'll want to be able to copy the steps the same here and do the same thing. If these people don't open up after a second email, that's fine. I'm going to go ahead and let them go. But if they do, I want to make sure that I'm checking, did they fill out the landing page? If they did fill out the landing page, let's go ahead and notify their user, add them to a Salesforce campaign, send an email. I have 2 send emails. Let me delete this last one. add them to a Salesforce campaign, and then as a reminder to go ahead and send the email. Cool trick to note within Engagement Studio, right at the end, if we don't want people to end right away after all the actions have taken place, we can go ahead and add a tag. So just watch this, it's kind of cool. So we could say wait step for our tag, and we're going to wait 365 days before this tag gets applied. So what does that do? It basically means that people aren't going to end right away. It's going to wait a whole year before it adds this tag and it adds them to the end. Well, why would we want to do that? So let's just say these people did. So let's just say it's after the trade show, and I maybe want to communicate with the prospects who are already in here for the trade show, and also send an email to prospects who didn't attend the trade show, just giving them a recap of what happened. Instead of having to send 2 different emails out or add a whole new engagement studio, everyone's technically still waiting on this wait step right here. So if I zoom in a bit and scroll down, we can start building off the rest of this engagement studio. We can delete this wait step, and then they'll start triggering down below here. So what something do I want to check? Let's go ahead and check for a rule, and let's just say, let's look for the Salesforce campaign status. So let's get our trade show. And let's just say we do have a status of attended. So I'm going to pretend this received as attended. So I might want to say, okay, for people who did attend this show, and I want it to send out check immediately, so I want it to check immediately if they attended the show. If they did attend the show, we're going to go ahead and send them an email saying, thanks for showing up, everything was awesome, can't wait to see you next year. But if they didn't attend the show, which we can see by our Salesforce campaign, we're going to send them another email just giving them a recap of what happened at the trade show. So again, it's a great trick to use. I can then delete this wait step. So everyone who is stuck at that wait step, they're now going to go down here and it's going to say, great, did they attend the trade show? If they did, they get this email. If they didn't, they get this email, and then everybody ends. So that's really one way of using Engagement Studio. Play around with it. There are so many fun things that we can do. Just a couple of samples of engagement studios that you can use internally. So you can use onboarding, for instance. You have new leads. Maybe you want to introduce your company to them. You can send them to an engagement studio. Maybe you're upselling products to current customers. You can use Engagement Studio. Think about onboarding new employees. You can use Engagement Studio as well. If you're demoing out a product, you can use an Engagement Studio to lead them throughout the demo process. You can use it for trade shows. Maybe we want to segment people by grades within the Engagement Studio and send customized content depending on what their grade is. There's so much you can do. I have a couple of resources that I've linked in our module training, so you can look at what other people are doing within Engagement Studio and start building them out yourself.